Welcome to the Snapshot update. This is being prepared Monday, March 21st, where we'll look at the action briefly in the market today and then see how things look for Tuesday, March 22nd. And this is a different type of video than usually what I post. Not only do I prepare a daily video each day, and that's what I'm putting up on YouTube and Rumble, I also prepare a short term. It's supposed to be just as short as possible, what I call a snapshot video, where you can go through and in just a few minutes get an overview of how things look for that particular day. I know that a lot of these videos that I post can be quite long. They can be 40, 45, 50 minutes long. And a lot of you just don't have that amount of time to look at things. And so I prepare a shorter term video for the people that are in my program just to give you the high level overview. And the reason why I'm doing that is my voice is gone and I haven't been able to teach. I tried to record a regular video before this and I do okay. And then I start coughing and hacking and it ruins the recording. And finally, I just said, okay, let's just do one of the shorter videos this time. I mainly just hit through the bullet points of what's going on. I just have a few charts to show you, and I'll probably cough and hack during this part too. So this will be for how things look for Tuesday, March 22nd. We had a pretty flat open, and we spent most of the day down around the daily pivot. The markets, the way things reacted on Monday was kind of how I thought they might react last Friday. We had gone up really far, really fast. It looked like the market was getting exhausted. We were hitting some overhead resistance. Well, we didn't. We ended up having a pretty nice day on Friday, and that actually broke through some resistance. We still have lots of resistance above where we're at right now, but at least on a closing and even weekly basis, we were able to do a lot of good technically as far as how the market is looking. We would have had more of a down day on Monday, but we saw some late buying. The last 10 minutes or so saw either a buy program or some intense short covering or something come in, and that really repaired where we would have closed. And we ended up only being down 0.04%, which really much is all pretty much is just unchanged. Volume was below average. You have a lot of indecisiveness right now. What are people going to do? A lot of people are waiting for other people to decide what's going to happen. And plus, we came up out of that base so far, and now people are trying to decide, is that a fake out? Are we going to head back lower, or are we getting set to go even higher from here? And so to see some sideways action would not necessarily be surprising. Our technicals are improving, even with the slightly down day. Earnings should be ending here pretty soon, coming up at the end of the month. People are still really concerned about inflation and interest rates, and then, of course, the geopolitical concerns, specifically Russia and Ukraine. So, what are some comments? We're out of correction territory. The technicals are turning positive and getting stronger. We are right at the 100-day moving average right now. The 200-day simple moving average is acting as resistance. We broke through the EMA. Now we're trying to break through the 200 SMA. And the 50-period moving average is also providing support. Fed Chair Powell came out and said, we might be willing to raise interest rates 0.5% at one or some of the meetings coming up. The market didn't really like that. That's when we shot down to the daily pivot, but it wasn't seen as overly negative. Some people see raising interest rates as positive to really try to get ahead of inflation. But we still remain in a range. And then, of course, the different geopolitical events, the things happening in China, my understanding is that some of the lockdowns are being lessened right now. And then on an individual basis, some of you may know that I teach online English courses to Chinese students. And with the very sad news of the crash in China, one of my students may be closely connected to that crash. And so my heartfelt thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and families of everybody who's involved in that whole situation. We did not have any economic reports come out on Monday. We don't have any on Tuesday either. If you're looking at the S&P just on by itself, we are still overvalued. But if you take more of an inner market look at the S&P, we're more in a fairly valued type of a scenario right now. I will bring up a chart of the ADX because we have crossed over positive in that. The bias, because we had a pretty much an unchanged day, is now more neutral, but the momentum remains positive. Here's the daily chart showing the different pivot levels, where this is actually somewhat positive because we're seeing a series of higher highs and higher lows. Even though we have a red bar here, since we were slightly down, not a lot of technical damage was done, but it still shows that we are in a range and have been in that range. Here's the ADX. You can see where the green line crossed above the red line. That could be positive, but as long as these two lines, the green and the red, stay close to each other, we're going to see the ADX decline and possibly go into a non-trending scenario. If there can be some follow through buying to the point where these two lines get far apart, that could turn the ADX back up. The inverse is also true. If we see some strong down days where the red line crosses back above the green line, we could also see the ADX turn up as well. So we're watching all three of these scenarios at the same time. Our Arun, it had a little bit of an upturn. When you look at the oscillator, it's just showing that there is a decrease in selling pressure. We had it pretty much flat with buying power. So it's not really picking up all that much right now. Here's the moving average rainbow, where we've been trying to come back up into some moving averages, and some of the shorter term moving averages that have been coming down, we're starting to break above those, but we still have a lot of overhead resistance overall. So what's our outlook? We're still out of correction territory. We're still in a range. We're still dealing with earnings season, and we're still trying to decide, is growth the good path to take or is value the good path to take? There are no economic reports on Tuesday. And then, of course, the backdrop of geopolitical events that doesn't seem to change very much right now. The scenarios are we looking to revert back to the previous trend? Before the Fed raised interest rates, the trend was negative. Are we wearing off an extreme negative reading before we get set to go lower? That's looking less likely, but it still shouldn't be taken off the table, at least yet. Are we forming a base? Yes, it looks like we are, and the oscillators are positive. We've been able to get above the 50 and one of the 200-day moving averages, and they are providing support where other moving averages are now providing resistance. So on the very short term, we remained overbought and coming off of some of those levels, and we may be hitting overhead resistance. And then also with the ADX, if we continue to chop sideways because people don't really know what to do and they're really indecisive, that could lower the ADX and put us into more of a sideways pattern. So what is the conclusion? The S&P is turning positive, but is still in a range. Our short-term bias remains positive to neutral because of the unchanged day. Intermediate term is more positive, but also mixed. With our oscillators, they still are positive. We're regaining some moving averages, but we're having a lot of support and resistance issues as we get close to those moving averages. And we're still below the long-term moving averages, so the long-term bias continues to remain negative. So thank you. This isn't as short as usual. I just wanted to give you a little taste of what these videos are like, but I hope you find today's video useful. As soon as I get my voice back, I'll do one of my full-blown videos just as soon as possible.